down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TogChat Live. It's an open mic night for photographers. Get ready for 60 minutes of your photography questions in real time with answers from your host, Joe Edelman.
Hey gang, thanks for joining me for another live episode of TogChat. I'm Joe Edelman, and our discussion tonight, a picture doesn't have to be perfect to be perfect. Stay tuned, and I promise to do at least 30 minutes of live Q&A at the end to answer all of your questions. So a few weeks back, Daryl Curry from Australia, Daryl's a member of my Facebook group, and he posted an image with a question, actually two questions. He asked, does a photo have to be perfect to be perfect? He also questioned, have we become more obsessed with the technicalities of photography than in the art itself? My answer to those questions, no and yes. A photo definitely does not have to be perfect to be perfect. So let's break that down and let's get past the wordplay, all right? If I may share something about myself, I am a perfectionist. I'm willing to put in the hard work, and I am by nature very competitive. I want to do my best. I'm great at managing the little details, but there's a big problem with that. I am not the best photographer, and I never will be. I learned very early in my career that I wasn't the best and that I didn't have what it takes to be the best. I almost gave up photography. I mean, what's the point? If I can't be the best, then why work so hard at it? I shared those thoughts with my with my father, and he asked me one simple question in response. He asked me why I picked up a camera in the first place, and what it was about that camera that made me pick it up again and again and again. It was at that moment that I realized what was most important to me. It was the process of creating photos, and it was the access that it gave me to all kinds of different people. Being the best was something that the competitive side of me was pushing for, but it wasn't the reason why I enjoyed taking pictures. So now, as I grew up and I began working professionally, and I continued to struggle with wanting to be perfect, struggle. You see, wanting to be perfect creates anxiety, because anyone who is driven this way eventually figures out that you can't achieve true perfection. So it almost discourages you from picking up the camera in the first place, because you know you're going to fail. Over time, this led me to realize that I needed to let myself be the perfectionist that I am, because that's who I am. But I needed to take a more realistic approach to it and not be so tough on myself. That began with understanding that if I ever did achieve true perfection, what would I do for an encore? I mean, where do you go from there, right? It's also meant that I had to learn that it was okay to fail, and that the important part was if I didn't take the risk, there would be no chance of success. It also required remembering my father's question. Why do I pick up the camera in the first place? So in the years since, as my career has gone from photojournalism to weddings and portraits and sports and product photography, food and fashion and beauty, and then back to photojournalism and back to beauty and portraits, I've done a little bit of everything. I've learned that a perfect picture is a picture that represents a moment that I care about. In order for it to be perfect, my photograph needs to make people pause. Hopefully say, wow, I want to create a story with my lighting, with my composition, and the elements that are included in the photo. I want people to feel something when they look at my image. In short, a perfect image should evoke emotion. You know, we can do a quick Google search for the phrase iconic photographs. I can't show them here because of copyrights. We're quickly presented, when we do that search, with some of the most memorable images in history. Now, if you inspect them a little bit closer, you'll find that many of these photos suffer from very poor quality. Oftentimes they're not sharp. There's frequently subject or camera motion. The composition is often awkward and the exposure is off, and the list of problems goes on. So how is it that these images are considered to be so good? They represent emotional moments. Heck, even some of Ansel Adams' images were not great exposures. As an example, his famous moonrise over Hernandez was flat and uninteresting as he shot it. But Adams recognized the potential of that scene and had very little time to set up his view camera and expose a sheet of film without being able to meter the scene. Now, back in the day, Ansel Adams and Jerry Uelsman, they really were the original Photoshop masters. Problem was, they didn't have Photoshop. They did their magic in a darkroom with paper and chemicals and light and meticulous note-taking. But they had the ability to turn the average into the incredible. Now, I'm not a landscape photographer, but I can't help but look in awe at any of Ansel Adams' images. Edward Weston and Irving Penn, two photographers that history regards as masters, routinely created art that had awkward composition, and they printed their black and white images in ways that we would currently call flat and muddy and poor in quality. Yet these images stand the test of time as incredible works of art, all because of the fact that they evoke emotion. They did then, and they still do now. Now that almost makes the answer sound really simple. A perfect picture evokes emotion, right? Not so simple. Different people find different aspects or genres of photography appealing to varying degrees, which is why photography is subjective. So there is no easily defined answer to the question. Now, if I can discuss a little human nature for just a moment, in most countries, like here in the US, we go through 12 or more years of schooling as we are developing into adult human beings. While we're in school, almost everything that we encounter has a right or a wrong answer. Almost everything is quantified by an A through F scale, and we all know that nobody wants the F. Heck, some people have a meltdown if they don't get the A+. So we are conditioned to want it to be right and to know the right answers and the right ways to do things. In photography, the only part that has a right or wrong, it's the physics part. Everything else is subjective, so it is hard to establish right or wrong or A or F. So what makes a picture perfect is going to be different for everyone. The simple reality is that nobody will have the same experience with one of your photos that you did, period. Even if they were standing right next to you when you took the photo, their experience will be different than yours. Now, Daryl's second question was, have we become more obsessed with the technicalities of photography than the art of it? In many ways, yes, we have. I call these photographers techtographers. Now, this is not meant to be an insult. It's a label that represents photographers who cannot resist the urge to get the A, to be perfect in a defined way. Techtographers are the folks who follow all the rules, and they find comfort in those rules, oftentimes at the expense of creating images that, while they might be scientifically and technically perfect, they're visually sterile and uninteresting. Now again, I'm not judging techtographers. In their defense, our obsession with social media and sharing everything that we do makes it extremely hard to develop as a photographer in today's world. You know, it is ironic that we live in a time with all of this incredible technology that allows us to do so much more with a camera than I ever dreamed possible as a teenager. Yet, that same technology, it preys on fear and anxiety, and it challenges even the most confident personalities. When I was developing my skills as a young photographer, I would take a photo and frequently I would be the only person that ever saw that photo. I figured out that my parents would never say bad things about my pictures, and my friends and relatives, well, they would behave the same way. Fortunately, my mentors, they were tough and honest, but always supportive and encouraging. If I met someone who actually took the time to comment about one of my photos that they saw in a newspaper or a magazine, they were commenting to my face, so they had nowhere to hide. That meant that those kind of interactions were usually positive as well. Today, what do? We take a picture, and in no time, it's online for the world to see, and then we quickly learn that the world is full of jerks. Jerks that don't consider us, or why we took the photo, or what our level of experience is, or any of the obstacles that we had to overcome. These jerks are simply full of opinions and hot air, and that never makes a person feel good about what they're doing or the progress that they are making. Come on, you can post a photo and get 100 likes, but all it takes is that one jerk who's going to recite some rule that he learned in a YouTube video like he is some expert about it, and immediately you feel like crap, and it doesn't matter how many likes you get. Today, likes become the A. Positive comments, the A+. Not a lot of likes or a nasty comment equals the F. Even though the nasty comments frequently come from people with much less talent and guts than you have. So if you're a member of my Facebook group, you already know that I don't believe in that kind of feedback. It has absolutely no value and is pretty much guaranteed to stunt the growth of any developing photographer at any age. I do believe that even though we have these incredible resources like YouTube and Google, it is much harder to develop as a photographer in today's world because of the way that we live our lives so publicly. So in summary, what do I suggest? I would encourage all of you to remember my father's question, which was really his advice. Never forget the reason you picked up that camera in the first place. Stop trying to be the best. Work hard to be the best that you can be. Create and record moments with your camera. Focus on the emotion of your shot. Strive to have people look at your work and pause and consider it. And if you're like me, work for that wow response. Now look, this is not an excuse to ignore really learning about photography. You know, learning about how the three sides of the exposure triangle interact and learning about what depth of field is and how to control it and use it creatively. This is also not an excuse to be a gear photographer who has all the newest, coolest gear but can't shoot. Or a zombie photographer who shoots exactly what everybody else shoots. In fact, I am suggesting just the opposite. This is a suggestion to stop paying so much attention to what the next guy is doing and be yourself. Do your own thing. Be a perfectionist, but use that in a positive way. Don't let it prevent you from trying. Instead, focus it on the details. I promise you, all of you, success in photography isn't in the rules, it's in the details. If you look back on all those iconic photographs that have stood the test of time, they are strong on the details and they are flawed at the same time. The flaws are forgiven and overlooked because these images connect with the viewer and make you say, wow. There's an emotional response. And let's be real. Couldn't we all use a little bit more wow in our lives? So look, don't worry about perfect. Keep the fun in photography. Regardless if it's a hobby or a profession, if you can't keep the fun in the process, or I should say, if you can keep the fun in the process, you'll never work a day. You'll shoot more often, and you'll improve with experience, and you'll always feel rewarded by your efforts. And those are my Tog thoughts for the week. Thanks for listening, gang. So as always, it is great to see so many of you here tonight. I really appreciate it. I know Marcos is here, and Casper, and Cody, and Anand, and Angel, and Doug Thompson's here, and Mustafa, Emre, Craig. Gosh, there's a ton of guys. We got a good crowd again tonight. So thank you for all turning out, spending another Monday night with me. So let's get a little bit of really quick business out of the way. But while I'm talking for the next 2.5 minutes, start typing your questions, gang. We've got lots of time for Q&A. So for once, I'm on schedule. I probably still won't manage to finish in an hour, but we'll see, okay? So, hey, the usual stuff. Please do me a favor. Take, just a second and hit that thumbs up button underneath the video. It would be greatly appreciated. And then when you're done with that, please make sure if you haven't done already, subscribe so that you don't miss any of my videos. This way you'll be notified when new videos come out. And of course, follow me on social media. You can find me regularly on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm pretty much on all of them, but those are the 3 that I spend the most time on. Comments are always appreciated. Remember, the comments that are here in the chat window, they go away when the video is over. I don't know why YouTube does that, but they do that. So it would be great to have you guys comment underneath the video as well. So 2 other really quick pieces of business. This past weekend, I had a new video come out. I'm hoping that you guys, if you have not checked it out yet, I'm hoping that you will go and check it. It is the first in what is going to be a multi-part series of videos. And when I say multi-part, it's going to be at least 4 parts, might be 5 or 6 parts. We'll see, okay? But it's all about LED lighting. So for this first one, and I just put the link in the chat window just in case you haven't seen it. Right there it is, okay? So for those of you that haven't checked it out yet, or maybe really aren't that much into LED lights, LED lights are the future. There's no doubt about it. So, the real question is, are they ready for prime time right now? Is there a reason why you should be looking at the current lineup of LED lights that are out there? And the answer, in my opinion, is yes, and it depends. It depends on where you're at in the learning curve. It depends on what kind of work you're doing. There's a whole bunch of reasons why. And it's going to be very different for everyone. So this first video, the one that just went live, is really kind of helping you establish what are the primary differences, especially if you're new to photography and new to lighting. What are the primary differences between the LEDs and the strobe? Why would you consider one over the other? And then over the next several videos, with some other stuff mixed in between, but over the rest of the series, I am going to take several different, 3, potentially 4 different LED lighting systems that are on the market today, and I'm going to basically put them through their paces, compare how they work, what their light outputs are, really try to give you an idea of why you might want to use one over the other, what the benefits are, etc. So all of that being said, please check it out. I hope that you will look forward to it. Also, I wanted to take just a quick second, and I want to congratulate a guy who is a follower of mine. He is also a member of my Facebook group. He is one of my Patreon supporters, in which, by the way, since I just said the word Patreon, if you haven't checked out Patreon yet, please do. Patreon.com/Joe Edelman. You can support what I'm doing for as little as $1 per month, $12 a year. That's like 2 cups of Starbucks coffee, probably even less, okay? But what that also gives you, and access to a bunch of little things, it gives you access to join our Friday night Zoom chats. And the Friday night Zoom chats, it's one-on-one with me and a bunch of other patrons. We all work with our webcams, we have microphones, and we get to talk, we get to interact with each other, ask questions. Some weeks the topics are Photoshop, other weeks the topics are, shooting things, etc. But I wanted to just congratulate Troy Hall because Smith Victor, the lighting folks, they recently ran a contest for a name for one of their new lighting units that's coming out either the end of this year, beginning of next year. And it was just announced today that Troy was one of the 2 winners. So 2 people came up with a name. So the great part is the folks at Smith Victor and ProMark Brands, which is the company that owns Smith Victor, they are going to reward both Troy and the other winner one of these lights when they come out. So congratulations to Troy. And also for the rest of you, a chance to win something. And this one, guys, this is like a no-brainer, okay? So let me just switch my screen over here to the browser so that I can show you this. You guys know that I am one of the PhotoFlex light leaders, which I'm very honored to be a part of that group. Some incredible photographers that are just amazing with lighting gear. And for me, I've used PhotoFlex for most of my professional career. PhotoFlex runs a weekly contest. So gang, this is like every week. So if you're photographing people and you are doing lighting and you are watching me, you have no excuse. Like, get on board with this thing. So I'm going to post the link to their Facebook page in the chat window here. Basically, the lighting is called Share Your Lighting. And all you have to do, they announce the winner every Wednesday. So basically, like by tomorrow, this week, but by every Tuesday, you email them a photo or photos that you have taken along with a behind the scenes image from your shoot. In fact, I'm putting the address in the window right now. You can also find it on their Facebook page, but it's marketing at ProMark Brands. But here's the cool part. Actually, there's a couple of cool parts. One, you don't have to use PhotoFlex gear to take the pictures. They're doing this as an educational process because they want to show people the setups behind great images. Who's that sound like, right? Okay, whoops, let me get that thumbnail from the video off there, gang, so you can actually see their page. There it goes. So you could shoot this with any gear, but you send your finished image and you send the behind the scenes image. So this week, as an example, for this might incentivize some of you to get your butts in gear and submit a picture by tomorrow. This week, I happen to have inside knowledge that the prize is a Spider backpacker kit from Spider Holsters. Cool stuff. So every Wednesday, they announce a winner and they give away prizes. So come on, guys. This is like a no-brainer, okay? Get your stuff together. And, you know, if you don't have any behind-the-scenes pictures right now, shame on you for two reasons. Number one, when you're setting up lighting, especially if you are just learning, make sure that you shoot behind-the-scenes pictures. For the first and most important reason, it allows you, when you finish your shots, success or failure, to go back and have a clear understanding of what you did instead of trying to remember it. You have visual proof. Here's your setup. Second reason, let's just say you're trying to build a business as a photographer. When it comes to social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those things, people love behind the scenes pictures. They're just cool. So use them for marketing. Third, you can win gear from PhotoFlex. So seriously, it's a weekly contest every Wednesday. So make sure, take a minute, like their page, follow their page, all that cool stuff. But seriously, guys, it's like a no-brainer. I don't know why you would not go ahead and try entering that contest. Okay? All right, gang. So let me scroll in here and see. Well, actually, we got a question right out of the box. So I'm going to work backwards on these questions, okay? Charles Moss, are there set rates to charge clients? No. So one of the things that I talk about routinely, so I'm not going to repeat all of it, Charles, but I'm going to send you in a direction that will help you out a little bit, okay? I talk about the idea that to make money as a photographer, essentially what you have to do is do what you do and then find people that are dumb enough to pay you for it. And I'm not being nasty towards clients. I actually had somebody write me a comment a couple weeks back that they thought it was really inappropriate that I used that phrase, dumb enough to, find people dumb enough to pay for it. Look, it's a concept. Everybody chill about that. The point is, okay, not everyone is going to like your work. Not everyone is going to be willing to pay for your work, even if you're giving it away practically. So you've got to find the people that like what you do. That's how it works. So that being said, there are so many different factors that impact rates, from the quality of your work to the amount of demand in your area to the average income in your area, et cetera, et cetera. So Charles, here's what I encourage you to do, because, and believe it or not, it is not Google how to set rates. If you do that, I'm telling you in advance, just so you've been warned. If you Google how to set your rates, your head will potentially just explode, because there is just so much stuff out there. Some of it, okay. A little bit of it, pretty good. A lot of it, just crap. So there are two resources I'm going to point you to that I think are excellent resources, and they keep up with the times. One is from the organization PPA. So that's the Professional Photographers of America. So if you're a portrait or wedding guy, you should be a member of PPA anyway. The other one is ASMP. That's the American Society of Media Photographers. Both of those organizations have outstanding pricing tools / guidelines and education available for their members. So that's where I would encourage you to go. PPA in particular, it's a little over $200 a year, which is not cheap, but believe me, you get your money's worth in the educational opportunities. Not to mention the first year that you join, you get free admission to Imaging USA, which happens, I believe, in January. It's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee next year. And you get $15,000 of equipment insurance annually at no additional cost. It's included in your membership. So that's where I would start, Charles. Okay. Raymond, I'm a hobbyist, but I'm hoping to trade some senior portraits for some homemade tamales soon. You know what? There's absolutely nothing with doing trade work, especially when you're getting started, when you're looking to build up a portfolio. The concept of bartering, gang, highly undervalued. Okay. Oh, and by the way, real quick here, so who was it? Was it Craig or Charles? Charles, I was answering your question. One of the things, if you're looking to get into pricing and marketing yourself and all that kind of stuff, I would encourage you, take a few minutes, go back to my YouTube channel, do a search for marketing videos, and you'll find there's a bunch of them, but specifically there's 4 videos, and you can find it in this Marketing for Photographers playlist. The first 2 are social media for photographers. The other 2 are about websites and web design and web marketing for photographers. They will help you kind of get your head wrapped around the kind of stuff that you have to really be paying attention to. I don't talk about specific details in terms of how to set prices, but I do talk in those videos about how to market your prices. So if this is something that you're looking to do and make money at, I think that you will find them useful. And Stephen, you're right. Actually, I forgot to mention that PPA does have a student rate. So depending on where you're at in the process, Paul McBacon, I think that pig Latin that you typed there is supposed to say, do you ever have mojo problems? Hell yeah, like all the time. I'm assuming what you mean is, do I ever run into a situation where like I'm not connecting to the client or the subject, etc.? Yeah. And that's just one of those things you keep going at it, you keep plugging at it. The longer you do it, the easier it gets. But yeah, that's part of the process. So, Michael, any chance you can review Neewer Vision 5 strobes? Michael, I'll be honest with you. I don't have a clue what the Neewer Vision 5 strobe is. I'm sorry. So if they offer to send me one to look at and it turns out to be something that I find value in. So a couple things that I mention this from time to time, but just to be clear, I do not do paid gear reviews. On any level, I refuse to do that. I do from time to time have companies that send me gear in the hopes that I will review it. I have a real straightforward policy. One, I won't do a straight up gear review, at least not yet. It's not my thing. So what I do, if I like the piece of gear that they've sent to me, I will keep it, I will shoot with it, and then I will do a video that's kind of a combo. It's part gear review without the drooling, and it's a big part of how can you put this piece of gear to use? How's it going to make it valuable to you? A great example, video that I did recently, gang, was the video about the PhotoFlex Rapidome. PhotoFlex sent me the Rapidome. In fact, I was one of the first photographers that got to use that Rapidome, which was really cool. I liked it so much, I went and bought my own in addition to the one they sent me. And if you go back and you watch that video, yes, I talk about all the cool features of the PhotoFlex Rapidome, but I also show you and walk you through a photo shoot, how to use it, etc. So that's kind of my approach. So I apologize, Michael. I wish I could tell you more about that particular flash, but I really don't know a whole lot about it. I'm sorry. So Marcel, did a little photo shoot with your youngest girl in the woods this weekend. It came out really nice, but I noticed a problem. You were using a simple reflector under. So it looks like you hit submit too early there, but if it's under the face, tisk tisk. You never want to have reflectors under the face, especially not outside. Let me just find the video here for you guys so you can see. I have a video that talks all about that, Marcel. So, unfortunately, what you have done is you have just outed yourself as not having watched all of my videos. So, that's a problem. But you need to go back to my channel and watch this one. How to use a reflector the right way. Stop using reflectors to make bad light. Putting the light underneath is bad. Period. Hands down. It's great because, hey, Halloween's right around the corner, at least here in the U.S. So putting the reflector underneath is really good if you want to do like zombie and ghoul photos. It works awesome. But if you are trying to do flattering lighting, you are never going to put a reflector underneath. Never. Period. Okay? Unless you are using it effectively as a soft fill. The problem is most people just shove it underneath because they think that looks cool. And then what happens is they're not using it as a fill. They're actually using it as a second key light, like a clamshell, but it's putting shading on the top of things. And that you don't want to happen. Super important. Okay. EW Image, just order your PhotoFlex Rapidome. Awesome, man. Believe me, I really think you'll love it. absolutely love them, okay? So let's see. David Fox from England. Would I recommend doing free photo shoots to get more experience? Hell yes. Absolutely. The idea that somebody should pay you to learn. So, I mean, that's the key. Believe me, people, and this would be a good topic for one of our TogChat discussions sometime, but it is not realistic or fair or appropriate, in my opinion, to expect people to pay you to learn how to take pictures. So up until the point that you are confident you can walk into a situation and nail that job, in my opinion, you should not take money. You should do it for experience. And then when it's all over, if you've done such a great job that that client is saying, no, I've got to give you something. I've got to give you something. Be a pro and say, well, I told you I would do it for free. So I appreciate your sentiments. Feel free to pay me what you feel it's worth, but I'm not going to charge you a rate. And you'll be surprised what they'll give you in those circumstances. But shooting for experience, absolutely super, super important. Okay. Let's see. April, went back and rewatched my marketing videos. Great. Thank you. It is indeed evergreen content. Hopefully stuff that you'll find very useful. So I know there were a bunch of shots back here. Let's get back. Christopher, do you ever feel as though you've arrived as a photographer? Nah, because what does that mean? Like, when I was younger, Christopher, and actually this ties into a little bit of the story that I told tonight in the beginning of the show. When I was younger, I wanted to win a Pulitzer by the time I was 25. Like, I had it in my mind, I'm going to win a Pulitzer because I'm that good and I'm going to work that hard. Well, the reality of it is you don't get to decide when you win a Pulitzer. A big part, and I don't mean to take anything away from any Pulitzer Prize winner ever. But in many cases, a big element of winning a Pulitzer is being in the right place at the right time. Period. Okay. Now, being in the right place at the right time is one piece, but then of course you still have to be amazing enough to respond, react, do all the right things accordingly, etc. So again, I'm not taking anything away from Pulitzers, but so for me, it was kind of like when I started winning all kind of awards as a newspaper photographer when I was younger. I was like, oh yeah, this is really cool stuff. But what does arrive mean? And what do you get when you arrive? I guess that's really the big question. What do you get when you arrive? So, I guess for me, I don't know. I don't think I've arrived yet or will arrive because I don't think I'm that good. Guys, I don't say that to be modest. Obviously I'm in a position where a lot of people turn to me for advice. And so it's very easy when you talk to as many people as I do, and when you look at as many pictures, it's very easy to sometimes kind of take shortcuts and sound like you're just judging people and you're being obnoxious. And believe me, I'm acutely aware of that. And I make that mistake sometimes. So I find it really, really important, both for myself, but for also the people that listen to me and follow me. I'm being completely honest about who I am, where I come from, what I've done, and what I know. And I'm not the guy, just like it says, if you watch the channel trailer, the intro video on my YouTube channel, I'm not that guy that's going to razzle dazzle you. I've been shooting for 40 years. I'm going to teach you what I've learned along the way. And that's it. That's really all I can. Anything else that I try to teach you, it's not going to be very helpful. So I guess if I had to give you a short answer, Christopher, I think you've arrived as a photographer when you are doing work that you feel really good about. That's how I would define it. And I think that's really where the value should be. Okay? All right. Let's see. So we answered Charles' question. Let me back up here. Raymond, I struggle with posing. Can you recommend some good resources for understanding the mechanics of posing? Stay tuned. This fall, this channel right here, I am going to turn posing upside down because I don't believe in posing the way most photographers approach posing. I think it is stiff. I think it is contrived. I think it is boring. And if you learn and take the time to study many of the posing rules where you get into C curves and S curves and all that stuff, that's crap. It's BS. All of those rules work great if you're dealing with a person that's a size 0 or a size 2. In the United States, the average dress size that's sold right now is a size 14. You take a size 14 person and put them in some of those rules for posing, they're going to look like a basketball. Just not going to work out really well. So my approach to posing has everything to do with body language and emotion. That's it. Okay. Marcel, thank you so much for the super chat, man. Let me find your second post here now. I see. Okay. So the first question, let me go back. So you did a little photo shoot with the youngest girl in the woods this weekend. It's come out really nice, but you noticed some problem. I was using a simple reflector, white, underneath the face, and a flash in ETTL. My problem is that her face came with some white spot in her face. Okay, so it's not the reflector issue. That's good. It was not overexposed. Can you explain? You fixed most of it in post, but it's not the way to go. Thanks in advance. Ooh. Well, I mean, it sounds like the white spot that you're getting is glare. So depending on where you're at in the world and depending on how hot it was, etc., your daughter might have had, essentially moist skin. And so if that flash is direct, even though you had a reflector underneath, if the flash is direct aimed at her, it's really, really easy to pick up essentially what is a hot spot. It's glare from the skin moisture. And it doesn't necessarily have to be sweaty. It just has to be particularly moist skin. So that's what it sounds like. Marcel, I would encourage you. I believe you're a member of my Facebook group. And if you're not, get there. Post that image in the Facebook group with the specific questions. Make sure you still give us all the, the required details for the post. But believe me, to post the image in the Facebook, it doesn't have to be the best picture you've ever taken. I would prefer they be pictures that people are looking for assistance with. So post that, and we'll get to the bottom of it. I promise you. Okay. Marcos, a question, but it's not so deep. Really, Marcos? Come on. I look forward to your deep questions. So we always talk about cameras, lenses, and lighting gear, but what about the hardware to work as a professional photographer? Any advice? Hardware? You mean like computers? Marcos, give me more. Maybe I'm just missing it because I'm like in high gear here. I apologize, but explain more what you're talking about there as far as hardware goes. Okay. So Doreen, not a question, but a comment, and it's a really good one. Thank you, Doreen. Doreen says, I watched the egg video this weekend. For those of you that have never seen my egg video, whoa, get it together. I apologize in advance. The egg video is really old. So it's not the fat Joe, but it's a heavier Joe, but it's the really serious Joe. So I'm sorry for that, but the information's good. So Doreen says she watched the video this weekend and she actually did the exercise. And I am correct. You don't understand it unless you try it. Thank you, Doreen. Believe me, it's not about being right. It's about really getting people to actually go and try and take the pictures of the egg the way I describe it in the video. You'll watch the video. You'll think you understand it. You will totally, get it academically. But trust me, you don't get it. Not until you do it. You have to go do it. It has to be something that gets added to your visual database as a photographer. And then it sticks. Okay? So, Thomas Palmer, what is the benefit of a numerous Instagram following? Do they buy products? No, man, that's like the A+. They just make it feel good. No, seriously. The benefits of an Instagram following, it depends on the quality of your following. So let me explain. I don't mean the numbers. You could have 2 million Instagram followers, but if they're not potential customers, people that are going to put money in your pocket, then it's completely worthless to have those 2 million followers. So the benefit of a large Instagram following really is not the right question. The question is, what is the benefit of having a good Instagram following? So in other words, people that are going to appreciate what you're doing and ultimately put money in your pocket. And that comes in many forms. Like, for me, people that are finding me on Instagram are not hiring me, but people that are finding me on Instagram are following me, following what I do on YouTube. Actually, I have booked speaking engagements for next year based on people that first found me on Instagram and then wound up going to YouTube, seeing how I teach, decided that I wasn't too crazy to come and talk to their group. And so they've booked me to come and speak to their group. So it's all about finding the right people on Instagram, not how many that you're finding on Instagram. Craig Pickles, does the Rapidome mimic, and I just lost it. Where'd it go? There it is. Does the Rapidome mimic the appearance of a beauty dish, or the reflector in it tries to diffuse the middle of the light source? Both. So I did a video a little while back, Craig, where I took a shoot-through umbrella and created essentially the exact same light that a real beauty dish does, right? So let's understand, number one, that you can create the same kind of light with like 10 different modifiers. It's all about understanding the inverse square law and then placement, right? So that being said, if I set a beauty dish 5 feet from my subject and do a close-up portrait with it, and then I set a Rapidome 5 feet from my subject and do a close-up portrait with it, and I look at the catch lights in my subject's eyes, they will be identical with one exception. The beauty dish is a full circle. The Rapidome is an octobox. Okay, so it's got the angled edges. So at first glance, it's exactly the same. Exactly the same. But if I blow it way up so I can see those catch lights, the difference is I've got, the angles from the Rapidome, but that's it. Otherwise, yes, it's extremely similar lighting. Very similar. Okay. Casper, do I ever give up on people? All the teaching that you do, repeating, help, you know what I mean? Casper, it depends on which day of the week you're talking about and what time of the day. No, man. I mean this really, really seriously. Do I get frustrated? Guys, if you've watched enough of my live shows, you know that, yes, I get frustrated. I take it seriously. I do really want to help people. Like, not to sound corny, but seriously, it's what it is. I've been so lucky to do what I do for so long. And believe me, I've made plenty of mistakes along the way. So I do consider myself really, really lucky. I'm at a point where, admittedly, I don't want to bust my ass the way I used to do, working with clientele and all that kind of stuff. So I actually love the teaching. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And now I get to shoot what I want, when I want, and how I want, which is even better yet. So, I go into this teaching that I do via YouTube, via social media, in person with workshops and lectures. I go into it realizing that I can't connect with everyone. And that's kind of my equivalent of what I talk about people getting, either thumbs downs or nasty comments. I like to think that I'm fairly good at connecting people and encouraging people, but I can't connect with everyone. So when I fail, it's frustrating. I blame myself more than I blame that other person. And I just have to remind myself that I'm not the right teacher for everyone. Let's face it, if that were the case, there'd only be one photographer on YouTube teaching, right? Or at least one photographer teaching in any genre, okay? So yeah, I have my bad days just like anybody else does, but I try to keep it in check. I am very, very fortunate. I am a guy who is married to a woman who is the polar opposite of me, meaning she's calm, really calm. So she is also a calming force on me, and that helps tremendously, believe me. So let's see. Raul Shots, when will be a good time to start charging for photo shoots? You need to go back and watch here. Let me switch back on my screen here, and then I'll bring it up for you guys to see. You obviously were not here the other week for my TogChat because I just did a TogChat about that. Okay. Let me see which week it was. I'll pull it up on the screen, and then I'll switch over here. Let me switch back over to my channel. There it is. There it is. TogChat number 76. Raul, when should you start getting paid for your photography? Go watch it. There's your answer. Okay. So let's see. Steven Stiles, I'd love to hear more about your newspaper days. Perhaps some editorial critiques, helpful hints, some of your experiences. Steven, I am working on that slowly. I won't lie, okay? I've had a lot of people ask about it. It's one of those things, I find it weird that people are that interested in me, but I appreciate it. Seriously, I appreciate it. So I literally, probably about 2 weeks ago, have started scanning a lot of old negatives, scanning a lot of old tear sheets and things like that. And one of the things that I have had on my mind for a while that I want to do is I talk so much about mentors. And mentors come in different shapes, sizes, forms. And a lot of times mentors are people that literally only impacted your life for 5 minutes at a time. And I'm speaking hypothetically, but for very short periods of time. But the little thing that they did, and when I say little, I mean for them, it was very inconsequential. Oftentimes it was just being a nice person, doing somebody a favor. But the little things that they did actually wound up having a really big impact on your life and your career and your growth. So I actually have quite a few people that fit into that category. Overwhelming majority of them go back to the times that I was in junior high school and high school and in my early 20s. But nonetheless, there were a lot of them, even including my father, who was a man who worked in factories all of his life. And when I got into photography, knew nothing about photography, but found some of the most amazing ways to be supportive. And he did it by doing it in ways that taught me the values of working hard and earning money and being able to buy the gear and have the things that I wanted and need. So I am going to do a video kind of about my history and my path, because I really want an opportunity just to kind of on record to be able to talk about these people, and honestly just to thank them, because what I'm doing now is absolutely possible really because of them. Because as a young kid in, you know, early teens, etc., it would have been really easier for me to go in any number of directions. And so the opportunities that they gave me and the things that they did for me are really the things that, you know, brought me down this path. So yes, it's coming, I promise. So Marcos, let's see, in my defense, after seeing the 78 TogChats and all the tutorials, come on, Marcos. Now see, you were doing great until you started making excuses. You can't make excuses. You got to go for it, man. Okay. So, your question was about the hardware. So you mean, for the softwares we use versus, okay, any advice? Well, I'm a Mac guy. Being a Mac guy right now is kind of like, well, I won't go that path. Let's just say I'm a Mac guy. I'm worried about Mac. I'm frustrated with Mac. I was a holdout for many years. So in other words, I was late coming over to the Mac side. I was a PC guy for many, many years. Finally, through a whole series of events, I made the switch. I don't regret making the switch, but I am worried that in the next year or two, I'm going to regret making the switch. Apple has not done a lot in the last few years to really demonstrate that they are committed to the professionals that really put Apple on the map. We haven't seen an update to the Mac Pro in God knows how long. I am absolutely anti-dongle. I left dongles in 1997 and have no desire to go back to that. So, you know, Tim Cook has said in interviews that Apple has not forgotten about the professionals, that, you know, we just need to sit tight a little bit longer, that there's cool stuff coming. So I really do hope that he delivers. And as long as he does in the next 12 months with some positive signs, I'll be good to go. This time next year, if you ask me that question and we have not seen Apple take steps in a positive direction, I am probably going to be back looking at Windows machines. But as it stands today, I'm still a Mac guy all the way. Biggest priority, RAM. Certainly you want to process, that's as fast as possible, but RAM is a big priority. The machine that you are watching me on right now, it's an iMac. It has 32 gig of RAM. It's maxed out for this iMac. It's one of the 4K, not the 5K iMacs. It's a i7 processor. So processor is important. RAM is super important. So I hope that helps. Okay. Lots of hard drive space also. So Mike Miller. Is there any way to make money selling pictures of high school stage productions? I haven't gotten a school to pay me to take pictures, so I try to sell individuals online instead. Low sales. So yeah, Mike, and that's pretty much how it's going to work. So obviously it goes without saying, don't try to sell pictures of high school plays unless the school has invited you to come in and take the pictures and is aware that you're doing that. Otherwise, you run a huge risk of getting in a lot of trouble. But that being said, if the school's inviting you in and allowing you to do it, online sales are the best. What you need to do is you need to get the school to support you a little bit. So make sure that you're providing images to the school. Like go in and shoot a dress rehearsal. Make sure that you're providing images to the school that they can use for posters, for marketing, images that they can submit to the local newspapers, all that kind of stuff. Pictures that they can use for the yearbook. Give them plenty of good pictures. Now the key word there, the most important word in that sentence was not plenty. It was good. Really good. So, you know, if your work's not selling, why you have to start working backwards. Why? So there could be a couple of reasons. One, parents just don't know that it's really available. In other words, have you checked the traffic to see after you shoot a show, how many people are going to actually look at the pictures online? Number two, are your pictures not that good? Just saying. I mean, if they're not that good, people aren't going to spend the money. Number three, is there a situation where the school is allowing people to come in and take their own pictures? In which case, why should we buy mics? So those are the things you got to kind of, one at a time, you got to go through and check those things off. But yeah, I actually did that for a bunch of years. When I first met my wife, I shot for 6 or 7 years. I shot all the theater photography for the college that she teaches at. And I did it as a favor to the school. And literally what I do, and with their permission, I would put them online and people would come and purchase images and that. Believe me, I wasn't getting rich off of it, but I would make anywhere from like $800 to $1,200 per show from people ordering prints and digital downloads and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely doable. Okay. So what else do we hear? Urban Media Showcase. Do I make my own thumbnails for YouTube videos or do I outsource? A little bit of both. So I do all of them, meaning, right here, myself. The basic design for my thumbnails was done by an amazing designer who is in Mexico City, Mexico. His name is Roberto Pinto. Roberto is the guy, and I've talked about Roberto in a lot of my marketing TogChats that I did or used to do. Roberto was the guy that designed my logo. He designed the TogChat logo. He designed the t-shirts that I have at TogSwag, which, by the way, guys, remember, you can get your own TogSwag at togswag.com. Okay. Roberto's the guy that designed all that stuff for me. Does a great job. So he created the templates for me. So at this point, I basically work within those templates and kind of those style guides that he put together. And as each video comes out, I do them. So obviously, if it's a video that's about photography, it's my pictures. If it's like the TogChats where you see all of the little characters in that, I purchase those through stock sites like Dreamstime or freepik.com, sometimes Shutterstock. So they're all paid for. I'm not just grabbing clip art. I'm a big believer in respecting copyrights at all levels, okay? But I do my own. So let's see here. Whoops, that just flipped up. Trevor, what aspect or genre of photography would you like to be better at? No landscape. We know you're not getting up that early. Trevor pays attention, right? I would actually, it's worth saying, I would love to be better at landscape photography, but the reason it'll never happen is because I refuse to get up that early in the morning and stand outside in the cold. Like, not happening, not for me. Trevor, I think, well, okay, so the first, I'm going to give you two categories because the first answer I'm going to give you might think is a little cheesy. So my first answer is beauty and portraits, the stuff that I'm already doing. I sincerely, truly, from the bottom of my heart, believe that there is always room for a lot of improvement. The day that you don't find room for improvement in what you're doing, pack it up because your work's going to get really stale and really old at that point. So I have always, throughout my entire career, that's part of that kind of perfectionist piece, always felt that there's more that I could do. I just learned early on, don't let that defeat me. Something completely different than what I do. Gosh, I think honestly what it would be is macro photography. For those of you that follow my iPhone Instagram, which, if you want to have some fun, I talk about shooting all the time, making pictures every day, all that kind of stuff. I actually started a second Instagram channel for my iPhone gang, and I post a picture every day, and you'll see a lot of them are done with macros. I just love really, really good, and I'm not saying my iPhone are the best. No, I'm saying I'm having fun with those. But I love great macro shots. The photographer Mike Motes in particular, love his work. Just absolutely brilliant stuff. So I think it would potentially be macro stuff. So Christian Nixon, how do you deal with a client that is giving you the runaround for payment? I know a guy that knows a guy. No, I'm kidding. So we have an existing relationship from a previous project there, and there are future projects that I would like to be a part of. Christian, I think that honestly, sometimes the best thing that you can do is realize that you will lose clients throughout your career. You can't keep everybody. Now, I read loud and clear, you've got a motivation here. You don't want to lose this client because there's more that you can do. So you've got to balance. You've got to look at, number one, how much do you actually trust this person? In other words, do you think they're trying to screw you over? Or do you think there's probably just something going on with them and they don't feel comfortable letting you know, so it's worth waiting out? If you feel that they're trying to screw you over or get one up on you, then you really have to question, well, what good is taking the risk of doing this future work where that's likely to happen again? I have learned, and believe me, this took a lot of years, but I have learned in my career, it's best to be just completely honest and straight with my clients. If I think that something's up or if something's not wrong, I'm going to ask them. Now, I'm not going to send a client an email and say, hey, what's the deal? This was due 30 days ago. You still haven't paid me. No. But if they're kind of giving you the runaround, it's time to either pick up the phone, or if they've been running you around on the phone, it's time to go to their office and say, hey, listen, I don't want to be a jerk and I want to keep working with you. Your business is important to me. But I mean, come on, something's up, right? How come you're not paying me? So if you can't pay me all of it, can we work out a payment plan? What can we do? You know, it's unfortunately the reality of running a business sometimes is that you're going to be a bill collector. Now, don't be that bill collector, you know, that's calling on the phone and annoying people in the middle of dinner. Don't be the guy that's sending obnoxious, threatening emails, but be honest with them and understand that sometimes you do just have to walk away. If they're not willing to set it right, or if they can't give you a reason what's going on so that you can try to set it right, then the best thing you can do is walk away and invest your time and effort and energy in finding newer, better, bigger clients. That's the best thing that you can do. Okay? EW Images. What's the best way to see photography? I found usually with my eyes. Just kidding. So, i.e. recreating a shot. Should you look at the light, composition, depth of field, emotion of an image? So you mean, in other words, like looking at another photographer's image and figuring out how did they do that? Honestly, all of those things, man. So since I'm a portrait photographer, let's start with a portrait. So maybe you pick up a magazine cover and there's a really cool image of a celebrity on the cover. And you're kind of wondering like, hey, how did they do that? First place I always look at is I start with the catch lights because the catch lights will show me position of the lights. Then I start looking at where the shadows fall because the shadows will also tell me positioning of the lights. Then I will also kind of look at you know, what's the composition? Is there something interesting going on with the personality? I will then start to pay attention to the small detail elements. Is there or is there not jewelry? How did they style the hair? How did that styling make the shape of that person's face look? What about the clothing? Did they do something that was kind of costumey, or was it really simple and kind of generic so that it blends in and disappears? Same goes with backgrounds, settings, all that kind of stuff. So I think you have to look at all of those things. And the key, though, is don't just look at them. You have to consider them. Hopefully, one of the things that I try to impart to all of you is that the idea or the ability to improve as a photographer, to get good at photography, isn't just about taking more pictures and being good with lighting and getting the right exposure. It's about being a person that actually thinks. You've got to really consider these things, and that's where you develop. I've said this many, many times. I'll say it again tonight. I wish, you know, it's the usual dilemma. When I was 20, I wish I could go back and know what I know now, obviously, because I would be a 50 times better photographer. But when I was 20, I was young, I was dumb, and I was talented, which unfortunately for me also made me cocky. I just took it for granted what I was doing. And I didn't consider things. Fortunately, my brain is like a sponge, so it all got stuck in there, but I wasn't taking advantage of all the experiences that I was having then. I learned that down the road. And now it's very, very important to me. So that's another big piece of it is don't just look at the stuff, but really consider the stuff. That's really key. So let's see here. Whoops, that just popped up on me. I lost my spot, guys. Where'd it go? Let me scroll back up here. There it is. Tan. Whoops, wait, no, you had a question there. Oh, here it is. Tan, the new iMac will be available in December. I hope it's available in December. Mike Miller, the schools invite me and they love my shots. They're good shots. Then, Mike, you got to look into how are people finding out about you? Does every parent of every student involved in the plays know about you? You know, you got to really kind of start knocking off the checklist there to make sure that you're covering every possible aspect. Certainly, the other potential is you're either pricing too high or you might also want to look at what platform are you showing your images on. You know, like is it SmugMugs and Folio, whatever. Talk to some parents and ask them honestly. Just say, hey, you know, and you know, approach a couple people, ask them, but try to get a feel of what they think of what you're doing. That's honestly one of the smartest things that you could do. But you've got to do your research, and that's with any business. So, okay. Eric Arnold, your live shows are so fluid with movement between screens, especially compared to some others. Do you have or will you be doing a video on how to set up live shows in the future? Dude, why would I give you information so that you could compete with me? Come on, seriously? No. I haven't considered doing a video about how I do videos because I do videos about photography, not doing videos. But I will tell you, there's no deep, dark secret, Eric. I use a stupidly expensive piece of software. It's called Wirecast. It's by a company called Telestream. I use Wirecast 7. So if you go look it up today, you're going to find out that they just came out with Wirecast 8. Now, there are two versions. There's the basic and the pro. So in Wirecast 7, because I don't know the new prices, in Wirecast 7, the basic was like $495. The pro was like $995. That's $1,000. I know that for me to move from 7 to 8, which I want to do soon, it's going to cost me about $500 to upgrade. So it is not cheap stuff, but it allows me to pre-program a lot of shots, a lot of the graphics, all that kind of stuff, very much the same way that a television production board does it. And that allows me to, make things work. And then from a technology standpoint, I'm using a Panasonic GH4 camera. So it's not a webcam. So you're, basically watching me through a camera that's got 4K capabilities. It's a 1080 feed that's coming out of the camera, going through a Blackmagic designed ultra recorder that goes then into the iMac through a Thunderbolt port. The audio is, this one's an Audio Technica mic that's going through an Onyx Blackjack mixer box that takes it down into a USB port, feeds it in. And I have two nice super big screens here, so there's information on both sides of me. All of the web stuff that I'm looking at and talking about is on this screen so that you see me looking towards the chat window. All of the controls are over here, so whenever you see me look like out the other side, I'm not staring at somebody else. I'm looking at the controls that are on this side. So, but yeah, down the road, there's a good possibility I will talk more about it. It's not like it's a deep, dark secret. So, Christopher Soul, newspapers seem to be dying out. As a photog, do you think that it's even worth applying to one? That's kind of a weird question, Christopher. If photojournalism is your passion, sure. I have a young lady that was an intern with me 2 summers ago. She's currently in Japan. She's doing study abroad with her college. She's currently in Japan. She spent the last 2 summers working for the Philadelphia Inquirer, which is a very prestigious newspaper and prestigious internship. And, she may not go full-time with a newspaper career. In fact, I really think she's going to be leaning much more towards being a documentary photography. And she's already doing a lot of applications for grants and things like that. And I know she's got a grant while she's in Japan to work on a project. But, yeah, I mean, newspapers aren't going to go away. Newspapers definitely have to get their heads out of the sand. They're going to change a lot. Is it possible, in my opinion, that printed newspapers will go away? Sure, that's very possible. In fact, at this point, I would argue that they should. I mean, why do we actually need a printed newspaper? I don't think we do. But you go where your passion is for the kind of work that you're most interested in doing. That's honestly what I would recommend for anybody. So let's see. Coast to Coast Imagery. What is or was your dream piece of gear you finally got your hands on? This piece may or may not be something you need, but rather more of a trophy, sort of like a classic car. I can tell you honestly, only once in my career did I ever have a piece of equipment that I felt that way about. I was 15 years old, and it was a Nikon F camera body with a motor drive when I was 15. They were ridiculously expensive. I got mine used from a photographer who was retiring from the Philadelphia Inquirer, the newspaper that I just mentioned. That was the only time I have ever dreamed and just it was like my life depended on it. Why did my life depend on it? Because newspaper photographers had motor drives. I wanted to be a newspaper photographer and I didn't have a motor drive. I was 15 years old. So yeah, I mean, that was definitely the piece. Andrew Clausen, any suggestions on how to portray emotion through your subject's eyes? Wow, Andrew, that's deep. That could be like 6 videos. But it's a great question. So go back on my channel. Here, let's switch back, see if I can find it for you real quick here. Let me bring the channel up. Let me go back a page so that I can search for the word eyes. I have a really old video that this is another one of those really serious Joe videos. I'm not sure I'm in it. I think this one's all voiceover because if I am in it, it's the fat Joe. It's like 6 years old. Okay. But it's all about the eyes for the best facial expressions for modeling and portrait photography. And then there's another one, portrait photography, why I shoot for the eyes, how to find the good side of the face. Those 3, super, super important. But Andrew, it all starts with emotion. More than anything else, it starts with emotion. That's why I'm anti-posing. Pose is a 4-letter word. Remember that, gang, okay? I'll tell you what, Andrew, I'll make you a deal. I know you haven't been at any of the Patreon Zoom chats for a while. Make sure you come to the next Zoom chat. And that's a really good topic for us to dig deeper into. But I will get to more videos about that in the future, I promise. Okay? Jay Sharp, does rejection from clients or clients backing out of a shoot motivate you or upset you? No, of course it pisses me off, man. But you get over it and you move on. You can't let it upset you for more than a few seconds. I have every emotion that anybody else does. And I, I don't hold back with my emotions. So sure, I mean, I don't like it if something like that happens. But when it happens, I've learned over the years that it's part of the process and you just have to let it go. Because all the self-doubt or all the negative feelings, all that stuff, it's not productive. It doesn't help you at all. So, okay. So let's see here. Melnick Studios, I just finished my home studio build. Congratulations. Do you think I should rent out blocks of time to other photographers or videographers, or should I not have so many people frequenting, scoping out my place and try to limit it? So, okay, first of all, why are you worried about people scoping out your place unless you're afraid they're going to like come back and break in and steal your gear? If you are afraid of people scoping out your place because they might figure out your secrets and do what you do, nah, come on, man. I would say that having people rent out your home studio, unless you've got like a separate entrance, that's going to be really awkward. Because then you got people coming and going through your house all the time. And it's one thing if it's your clientele that you're bringing in, but it's another thing if it's somebody that's coming independently. Yeah, that's not necessarily the most practical thing. But I wouldn't worry about it from the standpoint of, like, oh, people are going to figure out how you do what you do. Nah. We don't, none of us own this knowledge, gang. We're all blessed to be able to use it. I mean, really, that's pretty much what it comes down to. So, Raymond, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's see. Troy, good to have you back. Anand, what lens am I using on the GH4 right at the moment? What the heck is this actually? It's the, I don't know. It's the 14 millimeter. Okay. That's the lens I'm using. So let's see. Eric, man, thank you. Wow. Like, Eric, you're amazing. I really, really appreciate the super chat, Eric. Thank you. And I know you're a member of my group and all that stuff. Really, sincerely appreciate it. So, awesome. Thank you so much. So, let's see. Hey, Trevor, my main live video setup requirement is a plentiful supply of Coke. I have not had a single glass of Coke in 48 hours. Water only. So, for those of you, this is insider trading information. Now that I've said it publicly, the stock in Coke is probably just going to go poof, tank, okay? But I have had no Coke for a few days. Ton, photojournalism will always be at the forefront. You are absolutely correct, man. I 1,000,000% agree with that statement. Absolutely. And believe me, if photojournalism and news gathering ever goes away in any part of the world, we're screwed. Like, we're just simply screwed. Okay. Stefan, as an art student on a limited budget and starting to charge for photography, I don't have a professional camera. Please define professional camera for me. Using a Canon EOS Rebel T5, when would be best to upgrade to a pro level setup? All right, Steven. So you set yourself up for this one, man. Here, let me just go back to YouTube really quick. Steven, you have not one, but 2 videos that you are required to watch as soon as possible. And I'll make it easy for you. You don't have to watch the whole video because each of them are more than an hour long. They're 2 TogChats, okay? All you've got to watch is like the first 15 or 20 minutes. So the first one is last week's. Will that new camera make you a better photographer? Super, super important in response to the question you just asked. And then number 2, the week before that, when should you start getting paid for your photography? It's not about the camera that you're using, Stephen. It's about what can you do with the camera. I don't know what a pro level setup is. In fact, ironically, if you guys pay attention in some of these videos that I have coming up, I've told a lot of people, and I've said it publicly here, I recently sold one of my Nikon D810s, and I went and bought a Nikon D500, which is not a camera that I would normally use. And I bought it so that for the sake of doing YouTube videos, I could start to show people comparisons of, here's full frame, here's APS-C, and then of course I have my Panasonic GH5, which is micro four thirds. I love that D500. It's an APS-C camera. It is a sweet camera, man. So, for the people that have bourgeois attitudes, it's like, oh, it's got to be full frame to be professional. No, it doesn't. Because I'm doing everything with that D500 that I do with my D810. It's awesome. So in that sense, don't sweat too much about the camera. Certainly, is the Rebel T5 limited in its capabilities? Yes. But before you buy a camera, because of that statement, what you have to be able to answer is, what capabilities are you missing? What is it that you need that you can't do with the T5? And then you buy a camera that is going to allow you to accomplish those things. Okay? Christopher, yeah, newspapers everywhere are letting go of, their photojournalists. It's unfortunate, but, as a guy who obviously has known the newspaper industry for most of my life and has at least, taken a keen interest in it and been involved in it, a big part of the fact that so many newspaper photographers have lost their jobs, really the same problem that a lot of newspaper writers have lost their jobs, it's their own fault. A lot of big city newspapers especially were bloated. They had unions. They had built it up to the point where photographers would go to work and they would do 1 assignment, 2 assignments a day tops, which is crap. Back in the day when I did newspaper work, I do 5, 6, 7 assignments a day. Now, did I have the time to create National Geographic quality images doing 5 or 6, 7 assignments a day? No, I did not. But what newspapers were too stupid to see is that at the end of the day, people didn't need National Geographic style images in their newspaper. They wanted to see the news, and they want lots of pictures. So, I feel sorry for any photojournalist that's lost their job from downsizing, but as an industry as a whole, I don't feel sorry for anyone that's been a part of the newspaper industry for many, many years that's been downsized, because they're actually a part of the problem. They didn't fix the problem, and they could have. So it's tough. Anyway, it goes around. There's not an easy, solution there. So Anand, yeah, you can get distortion, if I do this, obviously, look how big those hands are. I don't have a Donald Trump problem here, right? Yeah. So you still get distortion because of 14 millimeter, but at the distance I'm working with, keep in mind on a micro four thirds, it's kind of the equivalent of a 28 millimeter crop. So since it's a 14, it'll still distort, but yeah, it's not showing like a full 14 millimeter. Okay. Cody, did I ever start turning TogChats into podcasts? I did, and then I stopped. And honestly, the reason I did it was because a lot of people just didn't seem interested. And what happens is a lot of people actually listen to the TogChats on YouTube. So in the end, I just decided not to, mainly because it was just a lot of extra work. And there really wasn't looking like it was something that I was going to be able to monetize and actually make it financially worth my while for a while. So, all right, gang, let's do last question here. All right. And then I'm going to say goodnight because, as usual, we are well over an hour. So, Leandro, I just started now with photography, and what I know is watching YouTube channel tutorials. Whew. Leandro, from a guy that's sitting here on YouTube talking to you and teaching people, please don't watch too many YouTube channel tutorials. Take that time and go take pictures. Go take pictures and go take more pictures. And go take lots more pictures. And suck at taking pictures. Like, really suck. And then when you really suck, take the time to study those pictures and evaluate them. And then go to YouTube. And try to learn how to improve the things that you are struggling with. Okay? But don't become the photographer that knows all about photography because of YouTube. Be the photographer that knows all about photography because they've taken tons and tons and tons of pictures, okay? So, a T5i is great. Any camera is great. An iPhone's great. But what you got to do is you got to get out there, Leandro, and you've got to shoot and shoot and shoot. Honestly, I can't stress it enough. That was the correlation I made. Maybe you didn't get to see the beginning of tonight's Talk Chat. Go back and watch it. But that's the correlation I made about being younger. In a way, I was actually, or at this point, I'm glad that I didn't have YouTube and Google. I frequently say I wish I had YouTube and Google because they're such great learning resources. But at the same time, and I know you can't have it both ways, right? But at the same time, I'm kind of glad that I didn't have them because it forced me to just pick up the camera and shoot and do things that way. So it's definitely, it's a double-edged sword there. So Adam SR, when will you have guests in your TogChats? It's coming. I promise. It's coming. I did the one little interview a ways back with Manny Ortiz. Manny Ortiz was a guest, not live. We recorded the interview. I played it. I'm looking at trying to be able to set up a couple different scenarios, and I'm not going to lie to you, I just haven't had the time to get all the kinks out, but it's coming. I definitely want to be able to do that, and I will. So, Dusty, Ton, thank you guys. Trevor, thank you for all the kind words. Please do go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, gang. Leave a comment when it's over. Hey, listen, I appreciate all of you. Again, thank you so much for spending a night with me and for chatting with me. I really appreciate the support. I hope that you guys find this stuff helpful. Stay tuned later in the week. Later in the week, we're going to do the next video in the LED series, and it's all about a really, really interesting new LED light system that comes to us all the way from Israel, and it's called Specular. So make sure that you check that out. I hope to see all of you guys. Anand says, uh-oh, I'm late. Anand, what did you waited until I started to sign off just to be able to say hello. So Anand, good morning, but goodbye. So seriously, guys, have a great week. And whatever you do, please remember these words. Thanks for watching another live episode of TogChat. Now go pick up that camera and shoot something, because your best shot, it's your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.